Spectacular Sunday, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. It's a beautiful Sunday. Well, the sun is down now here in New Jersey, but you know what? We had a very beautiful, blissful, glorious day, and I hope you did too. Well, here we are now again, once again, on another exciting edition, life transforming edition of Faces of Resilience. This is your host, Furley Almonte. Well, the whole reason why I got this Faces of Resilience on board is because I would love to be able to showcase stars amongst us. You, me, us ordinary people with extraordinary stories of resilience. And every single time I have an episode, I am blown away by how resilient people are, or at least how they find their resilience muscles and be able to rock their world, finding new beginnings and actually inspiring others. I hope today that that was going to be the case because I have a super amazing, super talented, beautiful, kind-hearted guest who's going to really inspire you in more ways that you'd ever imagine because her story is a string, or should I say an avalanche of adversities, and yet here she is right now, basically garnering recognitions, international recognitions, not only in music but also in film industry. You're probably wondering who that is, right? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you Jane Doe. Hello, Jane.
Hi, Pearlie. Thank you so very much. I'm so honored by your wonderful words. You're going to swell my head. Anyway, I am so honored to be on the show with you today. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness. When I first spoke with you, I was looking at your credentials because we were introduced by our mutual friend, Susan Michelson, right? And
Absolutely. Yeah, she's a dynamite lady too. Absolutely.
really a powerhouse when it comes to really managing artists and in her own unique area of genius. Oh my goodness, she's just an incredibly amazing and giving, generous, kind-hearted person that I am. I'm very honored to also call my friend now. And she and Susan introduced Jane to me, and with, of course, telling us about the amazing accomplishments that she's had right now. But before we get to sharing that with you, I would love to first get you into the world of Jane Doe. Well, Jane Doe is her screen name. She prefers to be called that. But let me ask you, why Jane Doe?
It has a lot to do with the journey and its inception. To start off, I'm an adopted child. I was born in the Bronx in Misericordia Hospital in the late 50s to an unwed mother. And I was adopted by parents and was raised in not really upstate New York, but in the suburbs of New York. And as wonderful as it was materially, there was a lot of psychological abuse that went on. And they really had their thumb in me in a lot of ways. And I really had trouble accessing my wants and desires and my ability to follow my own passion and my dreams in life, even from the youngest age. So I started out, somehow I knew very little that I had an affinity for music. And from the earliest age, from the time I was about 3.5, I could speak, I wanted a piano. And I started asking for one and asking and asking. And I can remember at 4 years of age spending a lot of time over at my next door neighbor's house because they had an upright piano.
Mhm.
And I would go every day and sort of plunk on it and I could hear things. And I got up on the piano stool, and as I was climbing up one day on the bench, it fell over on top of my foot and broke my little foot. And now, again, you must remember I was only about 4 years old at this time. So
Yeah.
I had a broken foot and no kindergarten tea. I had to stay home. I ended up going to the emergency room, and my leg was cast all the way up to the top of my leg and my foot. And it took a long time to heal. I lost the entire front toe and lots of blood everywhere. So that was a traumatic experience for a little 4-year old. And again, I never got the piano. even after that. I had a reoccurring dream for many years about bent pinkies swirling around on a swirling keyboard. And I had that dream into my teens. And as I got older, I did get access to other instruments. I taught myself to play the guitar and the flute. And one of the things that I learned through this experience of just total frustration and total negativity was that I actually had been training my ear from listening to music, listening to records. I did have access to a record player and records, and that's what I spent all my time doing. And by the time I was about 12 years old, I realized I had perfect pitch and was really able to start taking this some places. Playing in my first band with high school people when I was still in the sixth and seventh grade is when it all started. So that was the life lesson, though. Somehow I was able to recoil into myself and find what my gift was and begin to develop it and hone it.
And how did you utilize that special innate gift that you have and bring it to the world of entertainment?
Well, as I say, I started off playing in rock bands when I was just 12 years old. And then I went from there. One of my very first experiences, even as a not even a professional, but this was a professional gig. I convinced my mother to take me to Cafe Lena, which is the premier folk club in upstate New York. It was run by a lady named Lena Spencer. And I remember her driving me into Saratoga and going to her and asking her for a gig, quite point blank, saying, "Can I play here?" And she looked at me and she said, "Why should I give you a gig? Why should I book you?" And I said, "Because I'm a teenager and I will pack your club." So she kind of did one of these and she said, "Well, okay, I'll give you a Thursday night." So she gave me a Thursday night. And soon enough, I told all my friends in school. And the night of the gig, they were lined up down Phila Street. If anybody knows anything about the main drag in Saratoga, Cafe Lena is just off the main drag, and Phila Street is one of the side streets that spills into the main drag in Saratoga. They were literally lined up down the street to get in. So she was a very happy lady. So that was one of my very first forays into playing professionally. And, from there, um, it was tough because my parents were not supportive. They did not like the idea that I was doing music. There was an instance in high school where I actually had a friend whose father worked for a record label, and they wanted to sign me to this label. And my parents had to sign off on it because I was still a minor, and they would not sign off on it. They said, "You need something to fall back on. You've got to finish school." So that went by the wayside. I left home very early, and I needed to do that. It was very important to do that to me, to get rid of some of the negative static in my life and to be able to blossom further. So I left home at 17, and that was not easy. I didn't have a car. A lot of parents empower their kids today. They give them the opportunity to drive, they let them get their license. Well, I was never afforded any of those opportunities. So when I first left home, I was living in a spot where I was 7 miles to the nearest store. So I had to walk everywhere. I had to walk everywhere. I got very resourceful. I certainly didn't eat a lot then. And it was tough going. There was even an instant where I had decided with a friend, well, I'm kind of free right now. I went with a friend and hitchhiked across the country to Colorado to see some of my heroes in the music business, the girls in Heart, Nancy and Ann Wilson, and they were playing the Mile High Stadium in Denver. So I hitchhiked out there, and oddly enough, in your state, was picked up by some men in a Continental, black Continental. And I remember going down the road and getting some very, very queasy feelings in my stomach about what could have happened, because there were like four men in this car and myself and my friend. And I just had a feeling something was not going to go right. So I made up a story while we were driving about, well, this is our exit coming up here, so we need to get off. And I coaxed them into going up an on-ramp. And I was sitting on the end, fortunately. And I opened the door and grabbed my friend's hand, and we jumped out of the back seat. And, they stopped the car quickly and we had to run and hide. And they came around looking for us. Fortunately, they never found us because I can't imagine what would have happened. But I learned from that really, really just being on the streets as a young kid to really follow your gut, because it's important to listen to your inner voice and take those cues, because they can keep you safe and they can also bring you into having more success and more abundance come into your life, based on what your own gifts are and, what you should be doing in life.
No, stop there for a minute because I mean, first of all, like my goodness, yeah, I feel like I'm listening to you, and I feel like I've seen many movies, of how people, the humble beginnings of many artists out there, and I, for some reason, I could see you, and you even reminded me of Taylor Swift because I think she was 11 years old when she just went to different radio stations, and she wanted to give them her music, and she said, I want to sing, I want to be recorded, and she was only 11, but she actually demanded that her songs be heard, and look at her now, right? And
Absolutely. Yep. She
I
went out
am,
and did it. Yep.
yeah, and look, at multimillionaire, right? If not billion, right? And so I'm listening to you, and it's like, wow, talk about guts. First of all, just the first lesson from among this alone is that your parents being, they obviously want you to have a real job, right? Like go
Yes.
to school, the traditional parents, and yet
Sure.
there was that fire in you that keeps pushing you towards music because that's where your passion is, and
Mhm.
that's where your gift is. And so I cannot believe that you actually, just took a chance going to a like strange place, being around very questionable characters, and having that voice within you. Actually, like that's like the voice within, right? The voice within you keep telling you what to follow in terms of your dream, what to follow in terms of your safety, where to go in terms of survival. My goodness, that alone is very admirable. Like, first lesson here is listen to your voice, listen to your inner voice, right? And I know that aside from that, you had many more catastrophes in life. So go ahead, please. What
Well,
happened?
that is absolutely true. When I first was going out to California, oh, going out to California with a high school sweetheart in a Ford 69 Econoline van, and getting into
Okay.
Southern California and almost careening off a cliff because the steering box had failed. So that was another calamity. We escaped almost being killed in that instance. It was just horrible. So I get out there, and one of the first jobs that I worked when I went out there, I was working as a waitress actually on Vine Street. And there was a pimp that would come into the restaurant every day, and he would follow me home from work when I would walk home every single day. And he was always trying to recruit me. So, I was very grounded. I knew what I wanted, but it certainly wasn't easy. Hollywood was quite a place. Uh, let's see, how many decades ago? This is probably now 30 years ago. It's changed quite a bit, but it was quite a place back then.
My
So I
goodness.
dealt with that. Um,
So how were you able to shake him off from recruiting you?
I just would laugh at him and I just ignored him and I said, "Well, I have a job, thank you, and I'm real happy. So you have a nice day." But he would follow me home every day, and good thing I was a fast walker. I still am a fast walker to this day. So, and I have a destination, and and that's part of the whole thing that you learn. It's not just getting there, the destination is the traveling, and I move fast. So, but there's been
What else happened in Hollywood?
well, let's see. When I got to Hollywood, I started by doing top 40 bands. That was the very first thing I did, and then moved into studio work and showcase bands, which is playing with original people. And I had some marginal successes with doing that. Played with some bands, and we would open for people like Dwight Yoakam and Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead. And so those were some positive experiences. And I went on a lot of auditions too where I was rejected and I just was not what they were looking for. So you face a lot of rejection when you're doing this in Hollywood. Well,
Mhm.
I ended up getting into a band that we called crisis. And we did very well. We were actually signed to a label, and we we were voted one of the best bands in Los Angeles back in the 80s, one of the 10 best. So they decided they were going to sign us to this label, and I had the recording tapes that we had used, the 2-inch tapes from when we had gone into the studio to cut the record. And I was the one responsible for getting the tapes to the engineer who was going to put us on this label with some other artists. And as I'm driving to the hotel on Vineland in North Hollywood, I'm in the left lane getting ready to make a turn, and a car comes along and hits me and sends my little Volkswagen bus over the center divider into oncoming traffic.
Wow.
So it was horrendous. I was almost killed. Somehow I managed to maneuver around the cars, whip the car around. The whole right side of my car had been completely cat bashed in. The car was totaled. It was essentially totaled. And I was a nervous wreck, but I knew this was my shot. So I had to get this tape to the engineer. And I remember getting out of the car and running about a quarter of a mile down the road to the hotel and getting in there and just being short of breath and handing off the tapes. So, and that was an opportunity that almost didn't happen because, again, of another roadblock for Jane Doe. So there have been so
Oh
many.
goodness, you stop at nothing. I love that you are, even from a very young age, you are unstoppable. You know,
I try.
in- incredible how you just basically maneuver around adversities and crisis. And there many of them are life threatening and really quite frightening. And so many people out there, I'm sure still right now there's a lot of young people in Hollywood trying to make a mark, trying to be noticed, trying to do what it takes to become that next big star. And it's not going to be easy because
That's very true. That's
you've
very
lived.
true. It's
Yeah.
very easy to become trafficked out there. I actually wrote a song about that called City of Glass that depicts all of the young people. Stars fall from the heavens every day. Life cuts short the more we stray. And just being one of those things where there's so many people that try and they give in to some of the temptations of things that think are going to get them there when they are really diversions from what they actually should be doing in terms of following their passions and their dreams. So it's very important to try to have that clarity within yourself of what you want so that you don't get tempted and swayed by some of the horrible things that can happen. So there was that.
What about your personal life? What happened then? Like, you're a very attractive woman. You must have gotten in love. I'm sure you've fallen in love with.
Well, I've had a lot of ironies in my life before the whole love life thing really got going. Of course, I said I went out there with my high school sweetheart. And I tried to maintain some kind of a relationship with my folks. And again, here was my music in action. I had been invited to come home to the East Coast to play at a friend's wedding. And I wrote a song for her wedding. And when I came home, my mother was very, very insulted that I wasn't coming home just to see her. So she made a comment to me and she said, "Your grandmother was right. We never should have adopted somebody else's mistake."
Wow. How did that feel?
It felt it stopped me in my tracks. I was pretty devastated. And I remember my younger brother, who was also adopted, was sitting at the table when she said that. So he heard the remark. And I remember getting very quiet after that. I didn't cry at the table, but when I got up, I remember shedding some tears and going to the attic where I still had some of my memories and my personal effects and putting everything in a box, several boxes, and having it all shipped out to California
Do you speak
because
to your parents still?
I beg your pardon?
Your parents, do you still have an open communication with them?
My parents have both passed away, and I
Oh,
did make peace with them after this happened. But so I shipped my belongings out to California, and when I went back, I made the decision that it would be a while before I saw them again. But it had such an effect with me. I ended up going off the deep end mentally, and I met someone who had a similar background where he was considered an unwanted child, and I had an affair with him and I became pregnant. So here was the irony. I became pregnant, the unwed mother, and I decided to put the girl up for adoption. So I had my own issue with this. So the irony of being the adopted child and then having to be the mother who is unwed and in a situation where you're not ready for the responsibility, and I had to put her up for adoption. So again, it made me stronger, and it taught me what a precious gift life truly is. And I'll never forget when I gave birth to that child, seeing her eyes lock on mine. And that was the last communication that we had until many, many years later when we actually did have a chance to reconnect
Wow.
and make a friendship. And I do see her from time to time. It was hard on her. She has had some very complimentary things to me because she does have half siblings now, and she wishes that I had been the one to raise her. So it's very,
Does she
very,
also love music?
very, very touching that she feels that way. So there was that. And then
Music. Does she also love? Did you get your music?
she sings. Yes, she does. She's got an amazing voice. She sounds like Aretha Franklin. She's got
Oh
an
my God.
incredible voice. Yes, she
Well,
does. So,
well, hmm. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but at the same time, I'm happy that you have somehow created a friendship with your biological
absolutely.
child. And yeah,
Full
and
circle, a full circle thing with that. So it is a beautiful thing, and that was wonderful. So again, but this was another one of the things that became an obstacle to my music career because when I was pregnant, I played in the clubs until I was 6 months pregnant, and then I had to stop playing again. So
well,
I
actually, Jane, I was reading through your bullets of different highlights of your life. Okay,
okay,
not exactly none of. I mean, they're not all incredibly wonderful. Some of them were really quite heartbreaking and heart wrenching, right? And it's so funny because when we got together, me and Jane. We were talking about her life. We thought we were going to talk about only her music, and not realizing that this show is all about stories of resilience. And now she has to unpack so much in her life that she never even thought of for so many years, right? And so you were able to actually, so to speak, unearth so many different memories that
that
actually
is
help
so
you.
true. The unpacking of this was fierce because I hadn't done it. You know, when you go into survival mode, you don't do that. You just move on and do what you have to do. So I am so appreciative that you're giving me the opportunity to have unpacked it and then repack it again to put it back in the bullet points for you.
In a nice positive way, but there was something in there that also touched my heart, because we were talking about like Hollywood and how tough it is for teenagers. And
Yeah.
there was something that there was an incident that happened to you, that when you were in an apartment, you were saying that when you were assaulted, and we had
Yes.
to talk about that.
Absolutely. Well, that was very interesting. This was a little bit further down the road after this first incident of giving up a child. I got back on the horse again after, being knocked off the horse with that and got back into playing in the bands. I was also working the movie lots at that point. And I had moved up to Hollywood and was playing with Crisis, the band that I was signed to, and came home one night and got into bed, and someone climbed through my window and I was violently attacked. It was a horrible, horrible thing. It was a psychological ordeal that went on for 9 hours. I had to befriend my attacker, so to speak, to convince him he could have killed me. He held me at knife point and attacked me. Not only did he crawl through the window, he had a knife in his hand. So you almost have to submit to whatever their psychological trip is to try to understand them, which was what I did. And after this 9 hours, I convinced him that we were friends. And we walked out of the building together. And he
I
went
did
one
it.
way.
Did he sexually abuse you as well, or just physical assault?
No, I was raped. It was a rape.
My goodness, I am
So,
very sorry about that. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. First of all, that alone, okay. What was going through your head that that you actually had a clear mind to befriend your attacker and actually walk away from it as though you were friends. Like, how were you able to do that? Where did that come from?
I think one of the things in my upbringing, because I had always been taught to try to understand where other people are coming from. And this actually was a test giving me the opportunity to try to put yourself in someone else's place.
Some test. Oh my.
My attacker was very young also, and I went into mother mode. It was almost instinctual. I went into a mother mode kind of a thing to try to understand where he was coming from, why he would do this. And he was talking to me after the violent rape and assault. I calmed him down, and he talked, and we talked, and I got his trust. I worked very hard to gain his trust. And I actually
Did
did.
you do that so he won't kill you?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, because he still had the knife and
Mm.
he was planning on using it. So
Did he ever get convicted?
I this was back in the day where women were still not feeling comfortable enough to report these things. And I felt that it would just be another situation where it would get turned on me, and that, well, someone would say, well, what did you do to incur something like this happening to you? And I didn't want to have to deal with that kind of thing. So I just let it go. But even walking out of there and getting out of that was frightening. I had to get on a bus, and I went to the other side of the city and got into a crowd where there were a lot of people in the event that he might have followed me. And I got on the phone and called up some friends, and I said, I need to move out of my apartment right now. And these three young men in their pickup trucks were like knights in shining armor. They showed up, picked me up at the restaurant, and brought me back. And I had to put everything in storage. I moved in with friends for a while, and this was still during my period of doing heavy metal music, which had a lot of angst in it. So it actually gave me the strength to write some really angry songs about this and come out with some things to sort of depict what had happened, and put it in a light where you can get something positive even out of something as negative as that happening.
Wow. Okay, let's go fast forward into you settling into a marriage and having children, and what else happens after that, because I'd love to be able to talk about your nomination or your commendation to Cannes Film Festival. Oh my goodness.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely.
So just like just kind of putting a continuity to what you were talking about, and then how you became married, how you have children, and what else happened.
Absolutely. Well, again, the journey of music has brought me into just about everything that I've done. And as I'm journeying along after this experience, the band I had been in tanked, and I got involved with some other creative people. And one of them was Joe Shermy, who was the original bass player for Three Dog Night. He brought me to Crystal Sound and introduced me to my future husband, Andrew Berliner, who ran the studio. And we met, fell in love. He was in a tie-dye t-shirt and suspenders and sneakers, and here I was in leopard spandex and my hair spiked to the moon. And we were just two crazy people that clicked and fell in love. So I ended up marrying and having children with him. And after several years, we decided that we would rather raise them on the East Coast. We felt that they'd have a safer upbringing. It was getting crazy in LA with the drive-by shootings and all that. So he gave up the studio, and we moved to the Berkshires of Western Massachusetts, where we settled in to raise a family. We had two children.
You're
And
in Boston right now, right? Yes,
pardon?
you're in Massachusetts right now,
I
right?
am in Massachusetts right now. Yes, I'm in your time zone, girlfriend.
I know. Okay. And so now, your children are how old now?
My children are 25, 27, and 30.
Wow, my
Yep.
goodness.
So it's
You
been
don't
a
look like
long.
you have children that are full grown. You look.
Well, it was tough. I mean, even that was tough because when we got here, you think, and she lived happily ever after. Well, no. We came here. It was wonderful for us for a while. Of course, I had to give up who I was again, hence Jane Doe. I came here with leather and spikes, and this is a provincial town. So all of that had to go in the closet. And I
Okay.
had to create a new identity for myself here, which I did. And about 8 years in living here, my husband had a massive heart attack and passed away
I'm
3 weeks
sorry.
shy of his 56th birthday. And
Wow.
my children were 7, 8, and 12. So I had the road. I had the road. I did it myself. I did not have the assistance of parents that both sets of parents. You know, my parents were psychologically abusive, and to some extent, his parents were as well. So it was a tough thing. And I did alone. I worked, I raised them, and once again, the music sort of took a back seat to what was going on. But you just go within yourself and you draw from what you have. And I had made a decision a long time ago. I never wanted to be the way my parents were. So I made it a point that everything I did was contrary to what they did so that my children would grow up with confidence and the ability to go out and achieve and survive and not be insecure about who they were or have self-esteem issues
Wow.
because that's
Hold on. That is a great lesson for a moment. Like, first of all, you're saying that everything that you're doing now is basically to do the exact opposite of how your family raised you, because you want
absolutely.
your children to have the freedom and the
Mhm.
confidence to live their lives, right? And
Yes.
um, and to be able to have just like the audacity and the confidence that you now have. My goodness, what a beautiful, beautiful lesson that is. Now, tell me, how did you get back into music after all the decades of, my goodness, you had a very tumultuous, journey toward in your music. Actually, that alone is a whole story. Like, that is a movie. That is actually that is. I would love to see that movie, Jane Doe. You
Well,
know,
thank you for that. I someday.
one day, actually,
You
not.
want to help me write the book, Furley? Let's
Yes.
do
Yeah,
it
it's so funny because you know that I've co-authored three books, international bestsellers, and all of them also were inspired by my own stories of adversities. I've been widowed, I've been disabled for over 10 years. Here I am now, also singing and speaking and writing books and coaching people on how to become resilient. And I love the fact that I was able to turn things around, made my message, so that I can inspire other people the same way you are inspiring so many people right now who whose voices, whose dreams may have been suppressed by culture, by families, by circumstances, whatever they were. But continuously, you became unstoppable. But yes, you took a lot of pauses, but you
many
did not
pauses.
stop.
Yes. One of
Okay.
the things that kept me going here, though, with the music when I was raising kids, very fortunately, I lived near a place called the Guthrie Center, which was owned by Arlo Guthrie. And it was an outlet for me to go and play music there on Thursday nights and also to do some professional shows because they thought I was very talented. Arlo was very kind to me. He took me under his wing. They even had my little CD displayed in their merchandise case over the years to try to help me to garner some attention and whatnot. And I was able to go there and hone my skills again and sort of get my you have to get your chops back up again after a
Yeah,
while. You
I
put
know, but
it on the back
you know
burner.
what?
So
You
I was
never
able to
really
do
lost
that
it.
there.
You
Right.
never lost it. Every single time you say something, like the music comes up at some point in a different form. It comes up, and do you still play in those places that you had mentioned?
I still do. Yes. Of course, it's closed right now due to the pandemic, but up until that point, it was still a place that I would frequent. And it is a wonderful, wonderful place. They would have an open mic night on Thursdays where you could go there and play. And they were very generous with the time that they gave anybody that wanted to come in and play. So that was my sanctuary. That was where I would go to meet other musicians and whatnot. And they were very kind to me there. And it was a wonderful forum that they have provided for people over the years. So that was what got me started again. And then, of course, when my husband passed away, that was another avenue for me because rather than pillow talk with him at night, I would stay up after the kids went to bed until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning writing. That's my time. I'm a night person.
Beautiful.
So I would stay up and write, and I wrote, and I think it was maybe, let's see, it was 3 years after he passed away, I came out with my solo debut album, Burns Like Fire. And
Burn.
all of the songs that I put on that album,
Is it on iTunes?
it is on iTunes.
Okay.
Under Jane Doe with two A's, you can find it. The title of the album is Burns Like Fire by Jane Doe.
Oh my
And
goodness. I definitely will be heading towards it, like iTunes right now because I'd love to listen to your music. But before we get there, there's something that I'm super, super excited about, and
okay,
that is your official, uh, your movie, actually, your award-winning film, Pause, Pawns, actually, Pawns, Pawns, the
yes,
official selection of the Cannes Film Festival. Oh my goodness. Talk to us about Pawns.
we have just been so excited and honored by so many film festivals. I decided I took care of my mother too. And after my mother died, one of the things that I did was I got very introspective and creative. And I have a wonderful partner by the name of Harry Alpert. And we both had been in the film and music business years ago. So I saw this giant chessboard somewhere and it inspired me to write a song. I thought, oh, this would be a wonderful piece. So
Mm.
it inspired me to write a song about transformation and about if you work really hard and you really try to your best to pursue your dreams, anything can happen for you in life. So if you play chess, you know that a pawn can become a queen at the end of the game. So that tied in beautifully to the narrative of transformation for the film. So what we did was I went around with my own camera and did a lot of shooting in the beautiful Berkshires because the nature is lovely. We set up this giant chessboard and we shot. And rather than put it on YouTube, where it just goes to YouTube and that's the end of it, I thought that it would be better for me to try to network into the film community and to create relationships to get some excitement about the film by entering it into the film junket. So I went to Film Freeway and I entered it into many film festivals, and Cannes was one of the ones that came back and selected us for their festival this summer. It would have been nice to go to Nice,
Oh
but
my
of course, with
goodness.
the pandemic, we could not go this year. But
I know, but my
it was
goodness.
an honor to be selected by Cannes Film Festival.
I
So
listen. I'm telling, yes, you would love to be there, in your gorgeous gown and like all decked out and all that and receiving awards. But listen, just the fact that you have been selected in
absolutely.
a very prestigious film festival,
Yes.
an unbelievable
Well, I
achievement.
did get to go back and visit Hollywood because in February, the very first festival that responded to us was the Golden State Film Festival, which was located right in Hollywood. And they called us on the phone. Peter Green and John Gersha, who run the festival, called up and said, congratulations, you're in. We want you to be part of our festival. So Harry and I got on a plane. This was right before the shutdown, and the film was screened at Mann's Chinese Theater in Hollywood, the
Oh my
famous
goodness.
Mann's Chinese Theater. So that was a complete honor. I mean, who would have thunk that two people just doing something in upstate Massachusetts here in the mountains would end up in Hollywood?
Now
So,
tell me, are we able to see that movie?
well, currently, if you want to go to Roku and buy a little ticket for the Shorts Daily channel, it is currently being shown through Thanksgiving on the Roku Shorts channel. It is now in the Silicon Beach Film Festival. So if you can remember that, Silicon Beach Film
Actually, we're going
Festival.
to put that in the comments column, or in,
Okay.
this is going to be you'll be able to share this over and over because I'm sure so many people would love to be able to see your film, and we are all celebrating. Woohoo! Because it's a remarkable achievement of like resilience,
Thank
faith.
you.
You know,
So it's going to be on that platform until I think Thanksgiving is the last day you can see it, or through Thanksgiving week. And so we were honored to be brought into that film festival as well. So they are showing it, and it's Pawns, directed by Elizabeth Berliner, starring Jane Doe. That's me.
woohoo! That is so exciting. We're, like, obviously, look at this, a very, very long journey leading you to this incredible achievement, right? Not to mention, of course, your many amazing songs that we can't wait to hear on iTunes, right? So all of this, through all the journeys, through all the different adversities that you've been through, where would you say your your resilience came from?
That's a really hard question to answer. Um, you Everybody has the ability to go into themselves and just muster their inner strength to be the person that they are meant to be. And I think a lot of it just comes from getting quiet within yourself and listening to your own inner voice and following that inner voice. You can follow your heart and follow your head, but something between those two things is that inner voice that to me is the guide between the two of them that helps to balance the two things.
There goes your next movie or your next song, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm just saying because it is so so inspiring because I actually wrote lyrics to some songs about resilience and the different tragic stories, but I don't write music. And I said like so I'm so jealous of people who can actually write music and lyrics at the same time. And so I am in awe of your genius. I am in awe of your resilience. I admire you and respect you for being like have never giving up this like never giving up on your dreams, always listening to your inner voice, whether it be for your safety, for you continuously to chase after your dreams, to inspire others to do the same thing. Okay, first of all, give us like three quick tips on resilience that you would like to share with our viewers right now.
Well, the first one is most definitely listen to your inner voice and don't be afraid to trust what it tells you. Follow through on what it tells you. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to fall down. The difference between someone that is a winner and someone that is not a winner is that the people that fall down many times get back up again and they keep trying. So keep on trying.
I
And
love that. Oh my goodness. It's so funny because somebody asked me before, what is your definition of success? So many people have different definitions of success. And not, like we all have, they're all right based on how we live our lives. But how I define success is how many times I got up every single time I fell. And here I am, sharing that magnificent story of resilience, sharing that compelling message of hope and resilience.
message of hope. And there is one other thing too, and I think people don't think about this. I think it's important. Do not judge others. It's almost the whole tenet of people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Life is very fragile. We are all very fragile. And if we can try to be empathetic and not judge others, we can learn many things and move forward into places where we never dreamed that it would be possible to go.
That is so, so beautiful. Jane, many people would like to listen to your music, buy your music, see your movie. Okay, do you have a website where they can follow you or social media um, handler?
Yes, I do. I have a website. If you'd like to connect on my website and actually hear the song for the movie Pawns, you can hear it.
What's the title?
The website is www.janedoe.com. I spell my name with two A's. So you must remember janedoe.com, two A's. I also have a presence on Facebook. You can go to Jane Doe Music on Facebook. Um, I also have a presence on Apple Music. If you look for Jane Doe, remember it's always spelled with two A's, Burns Like Fire or Pawns. Any of those things will come up in the iTunes
Oh my goodness. I
department.
can't wait. As soon as we hang up, I'm going to listen to your song. I'd love to be able to download it and also, obviously share this interview as well because you certainly shared a lot of words of wisdom.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
like words of wisdom. These are also like, so many people can actually garner like strength from what you have shared, from being adopted to giving up your own child, being raped, talking your rapist into becoming your friend, like even jumping out of a moving car, to your safety, you know defying what your parents want for you because you want to follow your dreams and listen to that inner voice, and being able to also raise three beautiful children on your own when when your husband passed, and really, you are still unstoppable, because even in our old golden age, we continue to go after our dreams, sharing our light with others. And so, thank you so much for blessing us with not only your nuggets of wisdom, but also your incredible light. Oh my
Thank
goodness.
you. I just want to do good things. I just want to bring as much light and love to the universe as I can, as I am capable of doing. And I am so honored to have been able to chat with you today and come on and do this show with you. This is just so much fun. Thank you so
Yeah, I,
much.
I know that I feel like we're going to be friends forever, because like the way we were talking, just the first time we spoke, you think we're friends forever
We're
already.
just getting started.
I know, like being able to, unpack so many things in our lives, and being able to turn it around and make it an empowering lessons for so many people. So, thank you so very much, Jane Doe. Jane Doe, JAANE. Okay, double A. Okay. Jane Doe, and so definitely follow her. Go to her website, buy her music, burns like fire. And when you get the chance, we're going to put on the comments where you can actually watch her movie Pawns, where it's going to be actually, well, it is already been selected for Cannes Film Festival. That must
Yeah,
be.
Cons is over though. Cons was done already. And see, that's the thing about the film right now. It goes from platform to platform because they don't get to keep it. We have not put it out generally. So if you want to know more about where it's going to be next, you've got to go to my website. Currently, go to Roku Shorts. You can see it at the Silicon Beach Film Festival through Thanksgiving. And then if you're not sure after that, come see www.janedoe.com and I'll tell you more.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much, sweetheart. What a blessing it is. Well, well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you were inspired same way that I was. And I know that if you have that dream of yours, listen to your inner voice. Make sure that you follow your dreams, follow your heart, and make sure that some way, somehow find that resilience within you to go after that magnificent life that God has created for you. Okay? Remember, there are phases of resilience, and you are one of those. You have a story that the world is waiting to hear and learn from. Until next time, this is Furley Almonte from Faces of Resilience. Thank you so much, Jane Doe.
Thank you, Furley. It was an honor and a pleasure. And have a wonderful, safe, happy Thanksgiving.
You too, my
We'll talk
darling.
again soon.
All right.
Thank
I
you.
now I have somebody to visit in Massachusetts, right? Like I think I
Absolutely.
have family members there, but I'd love to be able to see you and hear you sing live as well. Maybe we can even do a duet.
That would be wonderful. Let me know when you're coming up. I've already got a room prepared for you. Anytime.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care now. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.